Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in the world on the 19th of April of 2026. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. According to information we have, weird things are happening right now through the entire state of Ukraine. According to information we have, these days several terrorist attacks were recorded on the territory of Ukraine. Right now in front of your screen, so you can see a picture. Ukrainian security services are preparing to storm a safe supermarket. Gunfire can be heard inside the building. So the sources are saying, and the media reported that yesterday a terrorist attack took place on the territory of the city of Kiev. A man with a gun was attacking civilians, and in the end of his terrorist attack he captured a supermarket. Now we have another report, but this time the report is coming from the city of Chernihiv. Something similar is happening here. A second shooting incident occurred in Ukraine over the weekend, this time in Chernihiv. According to preliminary data, 3 people were injured. Sources say that there were shootings and casualties among civilians. So we see that the population of Ukraine is stressed, and we see that more and more updates about terrorist attacks are taking place because people, it seems, are very in bad conditions, of course, due to the mobilization process, due to the war with the Russian Federation. And the most important thing is that the Ukrainian authorities understands the situation. Zelensky understands that Ukraine is in a very bad shape and very bad conditions. When talking about people, they are tired. And of course, the mobilization process that it's taking place right now does just one thing with civilians. It's stress the civilians, and of course it forced the civilians to make different things that can lead to casualties and bad consequences to the entire society. And it seems that the current situation with Ukraine is the main reason why the European countries decided to return the Ukrainians and the refugees on the territory of the European Union back to Ukraine, with the purpose to improve the situation along the line of combat contact, where the Ukrainians currently have huge problems. Just yesterday we discussed that France was going to send 40,000 refugees back to the territory of Ukraine, and today we received another report on this matter. According to information we have, Ireland intends to send 16,000 Ukrainians home by the end of the year by terminating their accommodation contracts. At the same time, a voluntary return program with cash payments is being prepared, up to 2,500 euro per person or up to 10,000 euro per family. This is already the second country promising to return Ukrainians home. The first were the French. The French promised to return 40,000 refugees. In total, we see that by the end of the year, the Ukrainian army can receive 56,000 soldiers from the European countries, and this is a very big number because 56,000 soldiers is enough even to carry out a small counter-offensive operation somewhere along the border with the Russian Federation or in any position. So that is why we believe that this process will only intensify, and we believe that after France, after Ireland, we'll see the same reports and similar numbers from Germany, from Spain, from Italy, maybe even from Poland, probably from Poland. And obviously, if we calculate all these numbers from every single state of the European Union, obviously the Ukrainians will be able just in 2026 to return back to Ukraine up to 300,000 soldiers, and this is a very big number. This is a very big number that may force the Russians to start acting probably more aggressively, not just about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, but about the mobilization on the territory of the Russian Federation as well. Now let's return back to Ukraine and let's continue with the situation on the ground. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very interesting changes. And first, let's talk about the Kharkiv direction. And when talking about the Kharkiv direction, we will discuss the situation in the area of the city of Volchansk and in the area of the city of Kupiansk, because it seems that both directions are the puzzles, the parts of the same puzzle. So the Russians, according to information we have, managed to improve their position significantly in the Volchansk direction along the river of Volcha. And right now in front of your screens you can see the changes on the ground since the end of the 14th of April of 2026. This is the end of this 14th of April. This is the end of the 15th of April. The Russians, according to the Minister of Defense, captured the settlement of Ovchansky Hutory. The next 2 days after, according to information, according to media, the Russians captured the settlement of Zybina, and these are the changes on the ground during the 17th of April of 2026. And today, on the 19th of April of 2026, we received the report that Russians also improved their position significantly in the area of the settlement of Akhrimshina. Furthermore, we have videos that prove the Russian progress on the ground. So it seems that the Russians are going to take under complete control the river of Vovcha in coming several days. In coming several weeks or something like this. But another important thing is that when we started receiving updates about the Russian offensive operation in this area, pro-Ukrainian sources and neutral sources began publishing updates that the Ukrainians began their major redeployments from the Kupiansk direction in the direction of the city of Volchansk and in the direction of the river of Vovcha. And we started receiving first updates on this matter somewhere around the 13th or 14th of April of 2026. And this is a key moment in this, the Kharkiv offensive operation from the Russian side. So once again, the first reports that the Russians improved their positions in the area of Ovchansk were received on the 15th of April of 2026. Probably the changes took place earlier, just on the 15th and the 14th of April. We start receiving first videos that could prove this, and right exactly the same period of time we received the video that the Russians began bombing and attacking the Pechenegi Dam with the purpose to destroy and to significantly reduce the Ukrainian logistics in this area. And all these things, Russian attempts to attack the dam, Russian progress on the ground along the border, forced the Ukrainians to begin moving their forces and redeploying their forces from the area of the city of Kupiansk towards the settlement of Belый Kolodец, towards the settlement of the Dovzhanka and the Malый Burluk, Veliki Burluk, and so on, with the purpose to stabilize the situation and not to allow the Russians to break through the northeastern Kharkiv defense layer. So the Ukrainians sent all operational reserves they had right exactly in this area. And this is a key moment in this situation because the Russians waited for 2 more or 3 more days when the Ukrainians moved everything they could move in the northern direction from the city of Kupiansk. And right exactly at this moment, the Russians began their Kupiansk major offensive operation, probably the last major offensive operation, with the purpose to establish complete control over the city of Kupiansk and without no return back. So on the 16th of April, or more precisely on the 17th of April of 2026, we received a report that Russians improved their positions significantly. On the 18th, we received a report that Russians improved their positions significantly in the southwestern parts of the settlement of Kupiansk around the Yubileyny micro district. So as you can see, the Russians waited for 3 more days before they began their major Kupiansk battle, because the Russians wanted to allow the Ukrainians to remove as many as possible soldiers and forces and troops from the area of the city of Kupiansk towards the border with the Russian Federation. And when it happened, the Russians began offensive. And the first thing that the Russians did during the first hours of the last battle for the city of Kupiansk is Russians sent lots of sabotage and reconnaissance groups in the southwestern parts of the city of Kupiansk and towards the Yubileyny micro district. We believe that this is not the only area where the Russians sent their sabotage and reconnaissance group, and this, particularly this sabotage and reconnaissance group in the southwestern parts of the city of Kupiansk, was tasked to establish complete fire control over this territory without any chances for Ukrainians to bring and introduce additional reinforcements and reserves in the direction of the city of Kupiansk using the N26 road. So the Russians blocked the this area without any chances for Ukrainians to introduce additional forces in the central part of the city. Of course, the Ukrainians discovered positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in the southwestern parts of the city of Kupiansk, and they sent FPV drone operators to attack possible positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. The Ukrainians began bombing and attacking this territory with artillery just with one purpose: to unblock the southwestern parts of the city and to introduce additional reinforcements in the central part with the purpose to stabilize the situation. But it seems that the Ukrainians haven't managed to unblock the southwestern part, because the Russians, almost during the same period of time, more precisely pro-Russian sources, almost during the same period of time, published updates that Russians improved their positions significantly in the central and the northwestern parts of the city of Kupiansk by taking under complete control the high-rise building area, so multi-story building area around the stadium square, and the Russians captured the territory around the Kupiansk central market. So these two micro-districts were captured by Russians as the first steps of the major battle for the city and the last battle for the city of Kupiansk. So this is the first thing. The next thing is that the Ukrainians, of course, were trying to send some reinforcements with the purpose to break through the blockade in the southwestern part, and we received several videos on this matter. In this video we can see how heavy armored vehicles were moving in the direction of the city, but they were met with the Russian FPV drones right exactly on the entrance to the city, which means that the Russians still were controlling the southwestern parts in the Yubileyny micro district. At the same time, and during the previous 24 hours, we received another video, this time from the Ukrainian side of the river of Kupiansk that goes from the northwestern towards the central part of the city of Kupiansk, and here we can see the same story. A Ukrainian drone was attacking edge positions and possible positions of Russians in the central part of the settlement. So as you can see, we decided not to unite, not to combine, let's say, the southwestern foothold of Russians with the central one and the central one with the northern one, because we believe that these are the territories that are under control of the sabotage and reconnaissance groups of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And we believe that in coming days we will receive more updates on this matter, more updates about activities of the Russians in different parts of the city of Kupiansk, mainly the activities of sabotage and reconnaissance groups. And during all these updates about these activities are being published, we will add more and more these pockets and islands of the Russian presence and the Russian activities through the city. But once again, it seems that this time this is the final and the last battle for the city of Kupiansk, and most likely in coming 2 or 3 weeks the Russians will try to establish complete control over the territory, and most likely the Russians will try to finish the battle for the city of Kupiansk once and for all before the 9th of May and before May's holidays. So Russians have still up to 3 weeks for this, and they will try to do this, and with the purpose then to announce about this victory to the president of the Russian Federation or something like this. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the central Kupiansk direction. We are talking about the settlement of Borova. We haven't been talking about this area a lot since the probably the beginning of the special military operation, but it seems that these days, especially in April of 2026, we see that the Russians have intensified their activities along the main defense layers and defense belts of the settlement of Borova. All these things and the number of these strikes tell us just about one thing, that most likely when the Russians finish the battle for the city of Kupiansk, they will move and they will shift their attention and their focus towards the settlement of Borova, because as you can see, the number of updates that we are receiving from the Borova direction is even more than the number of updates from the Kupiansk direction, which means that the clashes here are very heavy. The Russians are moving their focus. There are lots of FPV drone operators, and the FPV drone operators, as you can see, are working just with positions of the armed forces of Ukraine between the settlements of Borova and the Shivkiivka. So in coming days, most likely after the end of the battle for the Kupiansk direction, the Russians will move in the direction of Borova with the purpose to take this pocket as well and to establish complete control over the territory of Oskol, at least over the eastern bank of the river. And then the Russians most likely will shift their attention further in the western direction with the purpose to intensify the clashes for the southeastern and the northeastern parts of the Kharkiv region with the purpose to restore completely the territories the Russians lost during the counter-offensive operation of 2022 when the Ukrainians managed to recapture all these territories. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Slaviansk direction. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of updates, mainly through the only logistic line and supply line of the armored forces of Ukraine. As you can see, we have lots of icons along the settlements of Nikolaevka and the river of Siversk Donetsk. The Ukrainians use this territory for the logistic purposes, and the Russians, as you can see, established something like a kill zone over this area without any chances for Ukrainians to use these territories for the logistic purposes. The closer the Russians are getting to the settlement of Nikolaevka, the less capable lines and logistic roads the Ukrainians have for their purposes. The city of Lyman, the Russians began bombing and attacking or intensifying their activities in the eastern parts of the settlement. During the previous 24 hours, we received a video from exactly this area. This is a central hospital of the city of Lyman, and there is something like a government tax office. The Russians are bombing this territory, and it seems that the Russians are preparing themselves before the beginning of a major offensive or a major breakthrough with the purpose to establish complete control over the eastern parts of the settlement and with the purpose to cut the city of Lyman into several parts. But once again, and this might happen before the May holidays or probably right after the end of the May holidays. The settlement, the Konstantinovka direction, small changes were recorded in the southern parts. Here we can see the Russians improved their positions, and the Russians have finished the preparation before the final rush, before the final and major offensive operation towards the settlement of Dovga Balka. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of videos from this area, and here we can see how Russians were dropping leaflets suggesting and proposing the Ukrainians to surrender or to leave their positions without a fight. So there were two videos from this area that were published from Russians, and according to these videos, we see that almost every single square kilometer and every single position of the armored forces of Ukraine on the territory of the settlement of Dovga Balka Russians dropped leaflets almost over every single position of the armored forces of Ukraine in this area, which means that the Russians are interested to finish the battle for this settlement as soon as possible, and the Russians are preparing themselves. Very interesting to see whether the Ukrainians will accept these proposals or they will prefer to fight with the Russians. We will understand this most likely in coming 2 or 3 days. The Dnipro direction. During the previous 24 hours, additional changes were recorded, not even during the previous 24, but during the previous 48 hours. And these are the changes. The Russians, as you can see, captured everything to the south of the river of Balka, Tretий Yar. So there is a river with different reservoirs that goes through this area. And according to geolocations we received, the Russians managed to establish complete control along this natural barrier. Now the sources are saying that the clashes are taking place for the settlement of Novoalexandrovka, and we received this information mainly from pro-Ukrainian sources. They are saying that there are very heavy clashes. The Ukrainians are sending more and more forces in this area with the purpose to stabilize the situation, and the Ukrainians are saying that if they lose control over the settlement, the Russians will be able to get a foothold on the Ukrainian side of this natural barrier, and from these positions the Russians will continue offensive operation further in the northern direction with the purpose to begin the clashes and begin the battle for the Dnipro agglomeration. As for this Dnipropetrovsk direction, the main clashes are taking place on the line between the settlements of Alexandergrad, Ivanovka and Novopavlovka. The Russians, as you can see, during the previous days improved their position significantly in this area. And for example, these are the changes on the ground between the dates. And this is, for example, the end of the 30th of April of 2026. And this is approximately the moment when the Russians began their Dnipro direction offensive. The changes were recorded in the area of Novopavlovka during the 14th 14th of April. As you can see, during the 30th and the 40th of April, the Russians launched major offensive operation through different directions. We have changes in the Kharkiv direction, Kupiansk direction, we have changes in the Sumy direction, and we have changes in the Dnipropetrovsk direction. So at least from 3 to 4 directions where the Russians launched their major offensives right after the end of the Orthodox ceasefire and Orthodox Easter. So these are the changes. By the end of the 15th of April, the Russians crossed the river of Volch and began concentrating their troops in the forest on the Ukrainian side of the river. By the end of the 16th of April, the Russians recaptured the settlement of Alexandergrad completely, and the Russians continue offensive operation between Velika Mikhailovka and the settlement of Gavrilovka. And by the end of the 19th of April, we received a report that the Russians improved their position significantly on the line between Gavrilovka and Novopavlovka. So now it seems that the Russians are trying to break through the Dnipropetrovsk defense layer and to capture all these settlements along the current line of combat contact. This can allow the Russians to create a foothold on the Ukrainian side of the river of Volcha, and using this foothold, the Russians may try to move further and deeper inside of the Dnipropetrovsk region and to begin offensive operation towards the settlement by the name of Pavlograd, which is a key logistic and industrial city for the armed forces of Ukraine. We're talking about this territory. This will allow the Russians also to cut this direction into several smaller pieces, and then the Russians will try to handle with every single piece separately. As for the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received anything special. We have covered most of the updates regarding the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. Now let's discuss the situation in the Middle East, where we see that another crisis is brewing. The most important thing is the thing that the Iranians closed the Strait of Hormuz once again. During the previous 24 hours, several ships and vessels, commercial ships, were trying to break through the blockades. For example, here we can see that 5 tankers have transited through the Strait of Hormuz, all of which are sanctioned by the United States. Many tankers can be seen attempting to cross the Iranian passage but are being turned away. In this article, we see that according to information we have, several convoy of 4 cruise liners managed to pass the Strait of Hormuz at full speed this morning. Yesterday, Iran announced that due to the US not complying with the agreement, the strait would be closed. So we can see that these 4 liners managed to cross the Strait of Hormuz. Furthermore, we had reports that several Chinese vessels tried to cross the Strait of Hormuz, but they were turned back. And during the day, we received a report that the operational group of the Chinese operational group was previously deployed to the region to protect maritime roads and suppress Somali piracy and the Aden Gulf. However, this time it is likely to take actions to protect Chinese interests and shipping from American interference in the Oman Gulf. Furthermore, we received a report that the Chinese deployed not just the destroyer Tangshan and the frigate Dangin. Furthermore, we received the report that the Chinese military forces have deployed several submarines in this area with the purpose to secure and to protect the Chinese commercial ships against the US blockade. At the same time, we continue receiving updates about the situation in the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea. According to information we have, in coming hours, in coming days, we'll see 2 aircraft strike carrier groups in this region, the CVN-72 Abraham Lincoln, and according to information we have, in coming days, the CVN-77 George Bush will come to the area of Arabian Sea, and then we'll see at least 2 strike carrier groups in this region, and most likely then everything happens. Furthermore, I would like to remind you that the US authorities reported that if by the end of Tuesday of the 21st of April of 2026, if the Iranian side doesn't accept the demands and the deal, then the United States of America will start everything from the beginning. And it seems that it's probably the same time and probably approximately the time time that when the United States of America will be able to finish the redeployment of the CVN-77 in the Arabian Sea, and then they will be in full power, in full strength to begin everything and to start attacking the territory of Iran once again with missiles, with bombs, with aviation, and so on. As for the state of Israel, the state would be supported by CVN-78, the Gerald Air Fort, and with the Charles de Gaulle as aircraft carrier group, and these two groups will protect both the territory of Cyprus and the territory of Israel. So everything in coming days may start from the beginning, but as of the end of the 19th of April of 2026, as of May, I expect the beginning or the openings of the financial markets, and it's very interesting to see how the oil prices will change right exactly at the beginning, because according to information we have, the Friday markets closed with prices of $83 probably. So yes, these are the prices by the end of the 17th of April of 2026. WTI $83, Brent $89, most likely at the beginning of the 20th of April of 2026. So tomorrow in the morning we'll see the prices on the level of $95 per barrel for WTI and Brent. So we'll see significant growth just in $10 just on the opening. Then the prices will play a bit, and then everything will depend on the negotiation process between the President of the United States of America and the Iranian authorities. According to information we have, the United States of America have already sent their delegation on the territory of Pakistan. This is a very important situation, and as of the Iranian side, we haven't received anything on this matter. The Iranians are saying that they won't send their delegation until the United States of America remove the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf of Oman, and the Persian Gulf. But according to information we have, the United States of America is not going to do this until the documents and a deal is signed and reached between the parties. So this is the situation. This Monday is going to be another hot and very difficult Monday, probably ever, and since the beginning of the 2026. And that's it for today. The Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.